Hello, everyone. I have a special guest tonight. It's almost nighttime. I'm in the Dr. C. Lane Jenkins home in Madisonville, Georgia. And what a lovely home this is. Diane Jenkins. I'm sitting right next to her here in this home. Welcome, Diane, to this program, WCBA.TV.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure to get to know you tonight and to have you in our home.
I think you said you liked Edna. You liked Edna, my wife.
Oh, very much. If I had known you had such a nice wife, I would have encouraged Lane to invite you sooner.
Well, we can come back.
Oh, good.
Anyhow, we've had a great time this evening. We're waiting on our son Greg from Birmingham, Alabama. We're going on a fishing trip, which I said in that program with Dr. Jenkins, your husband. How did you meet Lane Jenkins, my friend?
Actually, Lane and I grew up in the same hometown. He was president of the sub-district for the Methodist Church. That was for young people. And so I saw him presiding, but I wasn't at all interested in him because he was a year younger. Now, a man who's a year younger looks very good. But back then, I liked those older boys.
But
then, so actually, I knew who he was, but I didn't know him well. We both ended up in Thomaston years later.
In Thomaston, Georgia.
That's right.
Where Lane was pastor.
Right.
You're a pastor?
No, I'm not. I'm not a pastor, but
I mean, was he your pastor?
No, I didn't go to that church because my first husband was a pastor at the Rock Methodist Church, and he was a student pastor.
Now, is the Rock between a rock and a hard place?
Oh, it was. It really was.
You know, I was also pastor in Thomaston at the High Tower United Methodist Church, and your husband was pastor at the First Church.
Right. When Lane was, years later. Right.
Now, you were a single lady because you told me you had lost your husband. That's
right. And so I became a single mother with 3 children to raise.
And Lane had lost his wife, Patsy.
That's right.
Whom we knew.
But that was much later now. I lived in Thomaston for about 20 years.
Really?
And it was toward the end of that time when Lane was appointed to Thomaston Church.
Well, I will never forget. I hope the folks in Thomaston are not listening. Lane said to me, "Oscar, what you said about Thomaston, everything you said is right. I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to say right now what I told him."
Oh, you're a wise man.
We both had a hard time there, but it was a good place. We had good catfish, did we, Lane?
Yes, we did.
Oh, we did.
Amen.
Now, you were a single mother raising 3 kids, right?
That's right. And when I realized what was ahead of me, one problem was I had been very sheltered. I really didn't quite realize I was an adult until all of a sudden I realized the responsibility that was on me. And so I thought, I was just desperate. And I cried out to God, what will I do? How in the world will I make it? And I knew I was beginning to read more and more about God's way of doing things. And I had really, even though my husband was a minister, we didn't tithe because he said, we're giving our lives. We don't have to tithe. Now, this was my first husband, not Lane. But so we didn't tithe, but when I was left by myself, I knew that God had said that he would provide for those who give. Give, and it shall be given unto you. And I thought, Lord, whether you provide for us or not, I'm going to promise that I will tithe.
Now, friends, you can tell our guest on this program today is a Christian woman. You are a professing Christian, right?
Yes, I am.
You believe in God with all your heart, right?
Oh, yes. I found out that he's real because he did provide, kept my promise to tithe, and he is faithful to his promise.
Think of this, folks. Here's a single mother with 3 children who tithe and made it. And what's happened to your kids?
Well, let me tell you about how God provided first. Now, I was a teacher, a high school teacher, and so I knew I couldn't make it. I mean, I was used to having a little more money.
Where were you a teacher?
Now, that was in Thomaston at Upson High School, which later became Upson Lee. But a man who had been in my first husband's church at the Rock came to me and said, I have an elderly sister who lives in the family home. It's a fine old brick home out in the pastures, and said, we would like for you to go live with her, and with your children. It's a nice big house. She is mildly, they called it retarded then, and said she's mildly retarded and needs some help. You can go on being a teacher, and we will pay you to live there and pay for the utilities and everything. So that meant I didn't have to pay rent, utilities, all of the expenses you think of that a husband might take care of, God had taken care of. And then I kept on teaching, and so really my children were not lacking for anything. We could always have more money, but we had plenty.
By the way, Diane, how was the discipline back in those days of students?
Oh, yes. Well, when I first got out from the University of Georgia, I taught 1 year at Rossville High School. And, of course, back in those days, for the School of Education, didn't teach anything about discipline. And I had no problem because I taught the students had good manners, they were respectful. I didn't even think about discipline. But then I did other things, and when I went back years later to teach, I was shocked by the rudeness, and I still taught about close to 20 years, but it just got worse.
You're
and
retired
worse.
now.
Now I'm retired because I just got to the point that I could not take the rudeness.
You have your master's degree from UGA, University of Georgia, and your MDiv from the Candler School of Theology.
Right.
That's the United Methodist Seminary at Decatur, Georgia.
Right.
And you also have a master's degree in English, right?
English education from Georgia State.
Did you teach English?
So I taught English.
That's good. That's wonderful. Diane, what do you think about the direction of this country? Are you satisfied with the direction of this country?
Oh, no. Just talking about the discipline in the schools is just an example. But it's as if now we don't have a certain way that things are to be done. We don't all agree that we are to live by God's law and God's word. Now it's every person does what is right in his own eyes, and what a mess.
You mean, Diane, God should be involved in the way we live in the United States of America?
Definitely. I remember when I was in the 6th grade, our textbook said that most of our founding fathers were deists,
I'm glad you
and it said that meant that he just wound up the universe like a clock and left it to itself. But now I've learned from people like Glenn Beck that is not at all what a deist means.
I saw eyebrows raised across the room there. Glenn Beck on Fox News.
Right.
You like Glenn Beck?
I have learned so much from Glenn Beck. It just is amazing what people don't even know in this country.
Let me tell you, Diane, I think Glenn Beck is a prophet. He is telling it like it is. And
Yes.
it's not good. And I share with you the concern about the direction of our country. When I was in the 3rd grade, we were taught to stand straight when we saluted the flag or sang the Star Spangled Banner, and chills ran up and down my spine. And they still do. Every time I hear that song, if I can, I stop and pay attention to the raising of the flag and saluting it. And I still, even sometimes I have tears when I hear God Bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with a light from above. That just thrills me. Well, so Glenn Beck's a prophet, and I would enjoin my friends to all listen to Glenn Beck on Fox TV. I think he's a prophet. Now, you might not like some of the things he says, but sometimes the truth is hard to bear.
Well, he plays videos to back up what he's saying.
Yes, he does.
Has books, and I just can hardly believe the knowledge that the man has. But he backs it all up. And then, like you said about being a prophet, he will play a video from what he said months ago, and it has come to pass.
Oh, yes.
What he says happens.
Well, you know, a prophet is known by saying things, and when they come to pass, that makes him a prophet.
Right.
Well, we're going to have to close this program. What's the answer? What is the answer, Diane, to our dilemma that we're in now?
We keep trying to find a man who can solve all the problems, but the man is Christ Jesus. When he comes, he will set up his kingdom on this earth. Until then, we need to stay close to him, and I know that's not going to happen for most people.
How do you feel about the election in November?
Oh, I think it's critical, and I will certainly vote, but we need to vote for people who are not going the way of big government.
Oh, you've put your finger on one issue there. Our government is too big. I think I said on this program or with your husband Lane that Michelle Bachman said now 51% of the federal government is in control of the economy, and somebody else said about a week ago it's going towards 60%. I call that socialism.
Oh, yes.
I don't like it. I don't want to see my country go that way. Well, if I'm not careful, I'll get to preaching here. I don't mean to do that.
I like that.
Well, thank you very much. Well, folks, it's been a pleasure, and I'm telling you, Diane, really a thrill and honor to be in your home, and the way you have received Edna and me, we appreciate it. And I hope that the people out here, whoever listens to this, it could be China, it could be Africa, it could be Rome. This is worldwide. And this WCBA.TV is the precursor to an internet TV station. I want you, and here it's being born right out here in the country in your fine home. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a guest on our program today.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to reading your books and going to your website.
Well, thank you, Diane. And friends, you have been listening to an interview from Dr. Poole with Diane, the wife of C. Lane Jenkins. Dr. C. Lane Jenkins. Well, I knew he wasn't a doctor. Thank you very much. This has been a WCBA.TV production.